Right now it has gone, but it hasn't. It has peaked somehow, but it hasn't broken the $70 mark.
Yes.
If the prices were to stay depressed at the current levels, do we see ourselves becoming competitive in this market?
That's a very good question, because it's a question that has affected the oil and gas community globally. And a lot of opinion out there as to whether we are headed back to the 70 or above 70. If you talk to a number of oil and gas CEOs and leaders and experts within the industry, they'll tell you that yes, the market was depressed and has been very bad for everybody. I mean, I think a number of companies have gone bankrupt in other markets. We are lucky that still there is some activity happening in Kenya, because when the prices go down, most of the companies will scale back operations and concentrate on producing assets. Kenya, we are not producing yet.
Yeah.
So for a number of the operators who have licenses in the country, when they go to their headquarters or shareholders and they're asking for money to go and explore, chances are that they don't get that money, because they'll be told, oh, let's first focus on increasing production in already producing assets.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Taro is not producing in Kenya yet. They are towards that path, but they are in Ghana. So you may find that they may be interested probably in focusing more in producing more in Ghana to cover the deficit. But as far as whether our oil is profitable at the 65 or something, it is. I think the numbers that have been thrown in the market is that we break even at around $35 or so per barrel. So at 60, we are, way above. In terms of the global price, the way I look at it, there's going to be a time lag before we get into that $70+ point. But it's going to come. Because what is happening is that, yes, as oil companies continue to produce from the existing wells, they are also depleting those resources.
Yeah.
Yet they are not investing more in getting more oil. So a time will come, it could be 3, 4, 5 years from now, when the demand for oil will be more than the supply. And then the price will spike. This has been the tradition. I mean, from 1900, the prices go up, then they go down, and then they go up again. So it's a question of
it has been a cyclical cycle of swings and all these. But I want to counter your argument by this fact, and we know that the technology of exploring oil is changing very fast, and we know that the shale technology is gaining traction so fast in the U.S., which is sitting on huge reserves of oil. Just the other day, a Spanish company announced that they have struck about 1.2 billion barrels of oil in Alaska. Those are huge reserves. So if more discoveries are going to be made, and the prices are going to remain depressed in the long term, what does that mean now for us?
You see, when the prices fell in 04, from the July towards the end of 2014, technically what normally happens is that companies have suspended a lot of projects that were aimed at bringing more oil into the market. So I understand where you're coming from, and it is very legit that the shale oil, especially in US, is one of the major contributors to the rebalancing of the global crude market. But at the same time, we must understand that we, as a globe or globally, people we are tending to consume more, and historically the numbers have been increasing every year on an average of probably 1 million barrels per year increase of our total consumption. So if we have less oil coming out, like for example over the last 1 to 2 years, companies have not been investing in getting more oil. They've been more focusing on what they already have. That means we'll have a time lag at some point where there will be a gap where the amount we are consuming will be more, we'll need more than the amount coming to the market. So we'll have a spike, again cyclical, because when that goes up, it's also encouraging the shale guys to go back into the production. And again, we have another oversupply. The price goes down again. So it's going to be like that. So I think the idea is to be able, to probably risk and plan and project your industry in such a way that you can be able to ride through the cycles. Yes.
And you know, when you scan the Kenyan environment and the activities that have taken place since we discovered, well, that was back in the year 2012, are you convinced that we have moved at the right pace and, most importantly, moved to the right direction?
I believe yes. I believe we have moved in the right direction. I'm a strong believer of the fact that, you know, if you look at our country, where we were in 1950 is not where we are in 2017, and certainly not where we will be in 2020. So the movement has been forward. The movement has been forward, and I'm optimistic that, you know, the small steps that we are making and the learning that we are continuing going on, it's good for the country. So we are continuing in the right pace. And yes, we needed to find a way in which we have structures and systems in place to ensure, as you said, we are also moving in the right direction. Yes, sometimes things feel a bit rushed because for other particular reasons, but yes, we need to be moving. We need to be moving.
Yeah, and as we come to the end of this interview, yes, I also want to find out from you, you know, Kenya has been talking about, you know, putting up a pipeline about 850 kilometers long from Turkana all the way to the port of Lamu. And plans are that we should have this pipeline by the year 2022. So we're talking about 5 years from now.
Yes.
At a cost of 220 billion shillings. Yes. We still do not have these funds.
Yes. Yes, we don't.
What will happen?
We need to look for investors as a country, because as a country you may not have the entire amount to put in for the pipeline. So we will need partners to do that, whether they come from China or West, that's still debatable. But the truth of the matter is that for us to harness our oil and gas resources across the various basins, we will need to put this in place. And yes, I agree with you that, you know, sometimes it can almost seem like it's just talk until you have it signed and the ground is broken. That's when you are sure that, you know, this is going to happen. Yeah,
and actually you have put it so vividly, because tallow oil, you know, I think it was last month or the month of March, they said that one of the biggest challenges that they are facing, you know, in trying to market this pipeline is the fact that many investors are of the opinion and they are feeling that they could be pumping money in a project that may not be viable in the long term, bearing that there are projections that oil is likely to lose its sheen in the next 50 or 60 years.
But ours should be in production for the next 30 years. So if you're talking about 50 as an investor, then it's actually viable.
Are they likely to have recouped their investment?
Absolutely, absolutely. They should. I mean, this whole idea of peak oil, I don't see it happening in 100 years. I mean, you and me will not be around when that peak oil happens.
Well, you can't vote. I'll still be around. We don't know you.
100 years from now, very few people are 100 years old.
100 years old.
So 100 years from now, and this discussion was there in the 1980s. If you look at some of the analysis and projections done by companies like BP, I mean, we don't look like they have to see the peak oil for a while. At least not in our lifetime, probably in another one. What may happen is that probably the energy mix may change, whereby then people stop using more crude and other alternative sources. But in terms of crude, I don't think it's going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Yes.
Crude is here to stay.
Crude is just to stay.
All right.
Yes.
Let's wait for the next 100 years. I hope to invite you here so that...
for that time?
Yes, we can.
Well, I come here with my, with my walking stick and all that stuff.
Gakuo, thank you very much indeed for joining us here.
It's been great.
For helping us with your insight.
It's been fun.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's Erastus Gakuo joining us here from Upstream. Job Gakuo from Job Gakuo, not Gashio, Gakuo from Upstream Oil and Gas, joining us here to help us understand all these oil and gas issues that being churned out from the government to the private sector. And of course, you have heard it. Well, let's move on to our earlier story.